Can adults learn new skills just as well as kids? For instance, music as an example. No, but we can do okay. But for many, many skills, we lose some of our plasticity. And there are, for different skills, some particular periods, some key periods during which, if you are exposed, you're likely then, if you become bilingual young, it'll be more easy. It'll be easier to pick up third, fourth, fifth languages later on, even as an adult, because you've effectively primed yourself to have the plasticity early on. And I think the same will be true for musical instruments. With regard to language, there may be a trade-off. There may be a trade-off to having lots of flexibility and, speaking many, many languages, which isn't something that, really anyone is saying. But yeah, getting at least some flexibility on board for some of these types of skills, the younger you are, is likely to make it easier later. But that doesn't mean that it's ever too late.
Yeah, I would love to see this parsed differently. And I'm sure there is evidence, and I just don't know it. But I wonder if language and music aren't exceptional, and for the very same reason, and other skills aren't so much like this. But there might be confounding patterns. Like, is it easier to learn to skateboard as a kid? Maybe not, but falling off the board is a lot better. And the risk of the injury upon failure is so much lower. So It's better to learn it when you can afford the failures, because you're going to be failing while you learn. Similarly, things that require really either gross or fine motor skills, well, especially fine motor skills, you're not going to be as good a woodworker at 6. No matter, right? Your judgment sucks. Your judgment sucks, but also so does your fine motor skills, right? You just don't have it on board yet. So there's not going to be, certainly not a single universal answer. But, just thinking about, there are, wordsmiths often persist being wordsmithy into old age, whereas other kinds of thinking does seem to fall off. And obviously we know that athletic skill does, to some degree, certainly things like burst speed and raw strength. Yeah. Right. I certainly know in myself that there were puzzles that I would have found easy to solve, like engineering puzzles that I would have found easy to solve at 15, that would be much harder now. On the other hand, the wisdom side of it about what solutions tend to look like and how one finds them is enhanced. So there's sort of a raw computing versus intuition trade-off, but I don't think it's simple.
Yeah, no, of course it's not. And I think, this is one of the reasons that having age mixed teams, regardless of whether you're talking about kids or adults or both, it can be so much, it's going to be messier. It's going to be less predictable. It's probably not going to go totally smoothly and as you expected and be the shortest time to completion. But it's likely to generate new kinds of wisdom in a way that having, perfectly matched, with the skills on board that you wanted in the room, that's going to produce answers that are more like the answers that have come before. And I'm thinking also of Ultimate Frisbee, right? That at the point that we were playing, we were mostly in our mid-late 20s and early 30s. And so we were not the youngest players on the field, but we were also nowhere near the oldest players on the field.
Yep.
And, there were some players in their 40s and 50s who were extraordinary. And they weren't going to tend to be the one who were like, I'm going long, throw deep, because there was always some young buck on the field who was going to be able to beat them and get to the Frisbee first, right? Yep. But they were strategic and they were able to place themselves where no one else had placed themselves and thus receive the Frisbee and throw it. And it really is such a remarkable game, in part because not just does co-ed work, but age diversity works as well.
Yeah, I agree. There's something, I think at some level, we artificially, for the same dumb reason that our classrooms look like a bunch of chairs facing the cave wall.
That'd be more interesting.
We have age stratified education because it's efficient in some way, but it's probably really dumb.
Oh, it 100% is. No, I think
It 100% is. And almost all, I think, of the alternative educational models, even in the weird world, recognize that. That's like one of the first things to go. The one-room schoolhouse, which my father was raised in, he was raised in a farmhouse with his family, but the one-room schoolhouse run by nuns, Catholic nuns in Iowa, was all the grades together, right? And that's a classic from every moment until now. And I guess Waldorf now does age restricted, but Montessori, the school that Zach went to for 1 year before it disbanded. The schools that are really trying to provide agency to the children and allow them to learn not only how to learn but also how to teach,
which is the most effective way to learn.
Exactly, has them with people who have skills that they can't yet attain, don't yet have, and can't yet attain because they're so much older than them, and also people with skills that are so much younger than them that they don't have that much to teach them, and also everything in between.
Yep.
So that all of those interfaces are possible.
Yep.
So in 2 weeks, we'll be talking about school, right? So next week, the chapter we'll be talking about is childhood, and the week after that is school. So we'll come back to that.
I feel just slightly too cool for school.
I was going to say you always have, but that really wasn't your situation.
No, that wasn't my situation.
Was never.
Yes.
That's not true. So I didn't say it.
Yes. All right.